Hi, team. This is session 14, use case and use case narratives. The objective of the session or the agenda of the session is what are use case and use case narratives, a relationship between use cases, how to write use case narrative flows, primary or main flow, alternative flow, exceptional flow. So, this is the agenda of the day. What is a use case? Use case is a formal way of representing how a business system interact with its environment. That means interaction between the system and the environment. The environment may be a system, it may be a software, it may be a hardware, it may be a human being. So environment means whatever whatever kind of component trying to access the system. The representation of that is use case. It illustrates the activities that are performed by the users of the system. Means anybody or any user, whether it is a software user or human user, how they perform activities on the system. Okay, it illustrates that. It is a scenario based technique in the unified modeling language. So we don't write the entire system in use case, we don't draw the diagram of anything in the system. It is scenario based, one specific scenario, it is a kind of one specific example. It is a sequence of actions a system performs that yields a valuable result for a particular actor. Now, we have used the term actor here. Actor means the user which we are talking about, anybody who is trying to gain the access to the system or who is interacting with the system, that is basically known as actor. Use case components. The use case has three components. First is the use case, which itself refers to the task or use case task, which refer to it as the use case that represents a feature needed in a software system. So as I said, it is a specific or a scenario based. So what we represent here is one specific feature or one incident or one case. The actors who triggers the use case to activate means which we are trying to explain, and the communication between whom and the system we are trying to understand and draw or write, that is the actor. And the communication, it is basically a line to show how the actor communicate with the use case. It is a very simple process. There is no complexity in the use case. The use case diagram, it is a major process performed by the system that benefits an actor in some way. It models a dialogue between an actor and the system. It represents the functionality provided by the system. So diagrammatically, if we represent a specific case, a specific example, that becomes the diagram or use case diagram or simply use case also. Let's understand by means of example. First of all, the actor. As I said, an actor is an outside or external system. It may be outside or external to the system, or it may be a human being, it may be a peripheral device, as I said, or hardware. It may be another subsystem also. It may be time or time based event which triggers the system to react. and it represented by a stick figure as shown in the right hand side. So what we have is this kind of figure which represent the actor who is trying to gain the access, trying to work on the system. The questions for identifying people actors: if we have people actors, then what questions we should ask? First of all, for example, who is interested in the scenario? As I said, it is scenario based. It is not the entire system. It is a part of the system, any component. So let's refer to that as scenario. Okay, so who is interested in the scenario? Where in the organization is the scenario be used? And who will benefit from the use of the scenario? And who will supply the scenario with this kind of information or this information and use this information and remove this information? Does one person play several different roles, or do several people play the same role? So it is a specific incident of understanding the system and its surrounding and the way they communicate. This is the system which refers to the use case, and anybody who is interacting with, we need to know about them in terms of these questions. Okay, and if we have other actors, not the human beings, if you have other actors in terms of like hardware or software, what other entity is interested in the scenario? What other entity will supply the scenario with this information, use this information and remove this information? And does the system use an external resource? Does the system interact with a legacy system? So this is other actors, anybody who is trying to access the system. Now let's understand this with a simple example which will make the concept of use case very easy to understand for everybody. Here is the scenario for a medical clinic. Scenario is a patient calls the clinic to make an appointment for a yearly checkup. The receptionist finds the nearest empty time slot in the appointment book and schedules the appointment for that time slot. Read it once more for your understanding, because we are going to refer to it and we are going to identify the component. Okay, so once more, the patient calls up the clinic to make an appointment for a yearly checkup. The receptionist finds the nearest empty time slot in the appointment book and schedules the appointment for that time slot for the patient. We want to write a use case for this scenario. Remember, a use case is a summary of scenario for a single task or goal. As I said, it does not represent the entire system. It is for a specific task. Okay, as I said earlier. So let's try to write a scenario and try to write a use case for this, draw the use case for this example. As we read the scenario, define those people or system that are going to interact with the scenario. Read once more and try to identify. A patient calls the clinic. So who is trying to gain the access to the system or the scenario? We can easily get the answer in the first line itself, in the second word itself, a patient. So patient here refers to the actor. Okay, make an appointment for a yearly checkup. The receptionist finds the nearest empty time slot in the appointment book and schedule the appointment. So we read our scenario. What is or who is the actor? The actor is the patient here. So we represent patient by means of this stick diagram. So patient is the actor in our example. The use case is a summary of a scenario for a single task or goal. So what is the use case here? The use case is make appointment, because the entire scenario is written for making an appointment. So it is a use case for a medical clinic. So make appointment is the use case. So completely, if I represent to this, summarize this entire process or the scenario, the picture below is a make appointment use case for the medical clinic. The actor is the patient. connection between actor and the use case is communication association, or simply communication, or simply a line which represent the communication, and make appointment is the use case. So use case, if you see, is written in an oval shape or ellipse shape, and patient is drawn with a stick diagram. So actors are stick figures, use cases are ovals, and communications are lines that link actors to the use case. It is that simple. So it is not at all complex, no further flow or details. It is the simplest possible diagram till now. Labeled using a descriptive verb noun phrase represented by an oval, that is use case by definition, as I said. So this is example of use case, make appointment. As I said, there were three components. One was use case itself. So here is the use case. Second was actor, which we draw with the stick figure, and third was communication line, which was a line. So there were three components in that use case in the previous figure. So make appointment, and then actor labeled using a descriptive noun on a phrase represented by a stick character, that's patient, and then relationships represent communication between the actor and the use case depicted by line or double-headed arrow line, also called association relationships. So the line between the use case and the actor, and that is relationships. And then we may have the boundary also. We may require boundary if a boundary rectangle is placed around the perimeter of the system to show how the actors communicate with the system. So we may draw a boundary line just to represent, to show how the actor communicate with the system. Again, now we may have this kind of diagram, multiple. Look at this rectangle here, and you see there are three use case examples in this diagram. One was make appointment, where the patient is the actor. All the use cases, if you see, they are enclosed in a rectangular box, and the actors are outside that. So patient make appointment. Another use case is produce schedule information, and management do that. And the third is record availability, which is again a use case, and actor here is doctor. Okay, so there are three use case examples in this particular diagram, this figure. So use case diagram is a collection of actors, use cases, and their communications. So this entire figure represents a use case diagram where multiple use cases are created. So this actually, collectively, if we draw use cases in our system, that's going to clearly represent the communication, who is going to communicate with the system, and or the component which we are considering. Component of use case diagram, as I said, one is a generalization relationship. It represented by a line or a hollow arrow from child to parent. So we may have this association also, generalization relationship, child use case and parent use case. We may have this multiple use cases and a relationship between them, so by means of that arrow. Benefits of use cases. Use cases are described using the language of the customer, easy language, simple language the user can understand. Use cases provide a contractual delivery process, the interaction between the actor and the system. Use cases provide an easily understood communication mechanism. When requirements are traced, they make it difficult for the requirements to fall through the cracks. The use case provides a concise summary of what the system should do at an abstract level, broader level. So it is not fine-tuned or minute thing, it is on a broader level, the interaction. Qualities of a good use case. A good use case starts with the request. from an actor to the system. It ends with the production of all answers to the request. It defines the interactions between the system and the actor related to the function. It takes into account the actor's point of view, not the system point of view. It focuses on interaction, not internal system activities, and does not describe the GUI in detail. Maximum 3 to 9 steps in the main success scenario, and it is easy to read. These are qualities of good use cases. Difficulties or the problems with use cases. As functional decompositions, it is often difficult to make the transition from functional description to object description to class design. So this is a bit difficult with use cases. The reuse at the class level can be hindered by each developer taking a use case and running with it. Since use cases do not talk about classes, they do not talk about developers, so the developers often wind up in a vacuum during object analysis and can often wind up doing things their own way, making reuse difficult. Use cases make stating non-functional requirements difficult. Where do you say that X must execute at Y per second? So system execution, or if you want to know the frequency, we cannot specify that thing. Testing functionality is straightforward, but unit testing, the particular implementation and non-functional requirement is not obvious. So these are some of the difficulties which may face with use cases. Next comes user stories, or we also known as narratives. By definition, narrative told from user's perspective, describing his or her uses of the system. Like this description, if you read out, let's read it. Bill is a marine biologist who wants to see an article about fish. He selects article or journal from the menu. He chooses topic fish from the subsequent list shown. The system returns article to Bill account his chosen topic about his chosen topic. The annotated list designers designates the physical location of the article. Bill clicks article of interest to him. The abstract of each flagged articles are displayed. Then Bill makes a final selection of article based on the abstract. The abstracts are printed and the Bill retrieves them from the printer. So this is a sequence, step-by-step process, or a narrative, not written one point at a time in one line, but in the form of a paragraph. And this is called narrative. How it is different from an informal use case? If you see the difference, it's quite obvious. They are too personal and too focused on the UI, and they contain non-software details, or like printing, for example. So this is a use case narrative, or simple uses narrative, or user stories. Use case narratives flows. A use case specification describes the functionality of a system in terms of a sequence of user system interactions, how the user is interacting with the system. The step-by-step process written in the form of a story. The main flow of event describes a single path through the system. It represents the most common way that the use case plays out successfully. and contains the most common sequence of user system interactions. Other scenarios or paths through the systems are described in alternative flows and exception flows. So what is the difference between alternative flow and exception flow? We are going to understand in next 2-3 slides. Use case narrative flows continued. Now we won't actually write every scenario separately from top to bottom. That is a poor strategy because it is tedious, redundant and hard to maintain. Instead, a use case can be written non-redundantly, starting with an unconditional main flow that is subsequently enhanced with conditional additional flows of different kinds, where a flow is a sequence of steps. The main flow equates to the main success scenario or the primary success scenario, and each additional flow represents a portion of one or more remaining scenarios. Let's understand the primary on the main flow with example. By definition, a primary or main flow is an unconditional set of steps that describes how the use case goal can be achieved and all related stakeholders' interest can be satisfied. Each step is essential in achieving the use case goal. No step can be skipped and each step succeeds. Here we are not talking about conditional flow. Here we are not talking about branching. We are talking about sequence by sequence. So main flow is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 5, step 6, step 7 finally leads to the success. No detours. There are no conditional branches as I categorically. So the use case specifications, the system is some kind of web store and the use case is checkout. Now let's understand the main flow of this checkout use case. Main flow is actor provides a mailing address. The system validates the mailing address. The actor provides credit card information. The system validates the credit card information. The system provides the actor a summary of the order. The actor indicates to proceed with the order. The system records the order and provides the actor with the order number, and the use case succeeds. It appears to be so smooth and we are assuming that there is no problem. However, which is not right, there may be problems. So this is main flow without any problem. So main flow or the primary flow is assuming that everything will be successful. So it is very optimistic kind of approach. The main flow incorporates the credit card payment method. No special rationale required. Alternative payment methods are dealt with later on. So we are not talking about that. So therefore, this is the primary flow or the main flow or the successful flow of a use case. The alternative flow. Now just imagine the same scenario if the credit card is not working then. So there we have the branching. So it is a conditional set of steps that are an alternative to one or more steps in another flow. The alternative flow is performed instead of other steps or steps, after which the use case continues to pursue its goal. Now look at this example, same example again, main flow, and we have a branching condition, step 3, 4. If the branch condition is satisfied, then we are continuing with step 3 and 4. If not satisfied or some condition, then we have another flow, A1 example here, and then we are continuing with step 5 and 6. So branch point and rejoin point, you see they are triangular. They are representing that this is out and one is going in. So alternative flow here done instead of steps in another flow, or a rejoin at another flow or the same step. Same flow after some steps. Same process we understand once more. The use case specification is some web store and the use case is checkout. The main flow, let's continue. The actor provides credit card information. So another A1 here refers to actor wants to pay with PayPal. Maybe we need to point a branch point marker is attached to the first step to which the AF is an alternative. So the system validates the credit card information, because with the credit card, if he doesn't want to pay by credit card, he has the option of paying with PayPal. So alternative payment method is available, and we are suggesting PayPal is the another method. So primary order summary, system provides the actor with the summary of the order. Now user join back here. So rejoin point marker is placed before the steps which this AF returns, or alternate flows return to. So here we are talking about the main flow, then branching to alternative flow where the actor is making the payment through PayPal, and the A1 or the alternative flow is now written down this. So here is the alternative flow A1. Actor wants to pay with PayPal, not the credit card. So the actor provides PayPal information, the system validates the PayPal information, the user case continues at the provide order summary in the main flow. So here we go back to the main flow, and the system provides the actor with the summary of the order. So a branch pointer identifies the additional flow by flow's unique identifier, which must be given. You must specify this within the use case and the branch condition that triggers it. Alright, so this is the example of alternative flow. Then we have exceptional flow. By definition, exceptional flow is set of steps that are response to the failure of a steps in another flow. The exception flow is performed after the other steps, after which the use case abandons the pursuit of its goal. Now here we suppose the credit card payment failure happens and there is no alternative payment method. That is example. So exception flow done after a failed step to another flow and does not rejoin another flow. So we have a failure of the steps. So main flow step 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have branch condition, and then E1 which referred here some nomenclature identity of exceptional flow 1, and failure happens. So if a branch condition is satisfied, then we are continuing with that, and the flow results or end into success. So the use case specification, same concept here, personal banking website, and use case is sign in. So this time it is not a web store, it is a banking website, and the use case example is signing in the website. Some steps in the main flow, but step number 3 is actor provides the password. The system validates that password matches the one of the file. So exception even specified here is the password does not match or something like that, and which is written. Let's go back to the E1 directly at the bottom of these steps. Exception flow E1. The password does not match and no more retries left. The system suspends the user account. The system informs the actor that a user account has been suspended and the user use case fails. So this is exceptional flow. Okay. Now after this, even if we continued with the main flow, if this exception does not occur, then we are continuing with the main flow. The system informs the actor when the previous sign in took place and use case succeeds. So these are 3 different flows, my friends. One, primary flow, as you could see this. Second, alternative flow, which is a conditional flow. Okay. And third is exception, when the system fails. And that's all for this session. Thank you very much, friends. Thanks for watching.